Hello world, here I am standing over this little old town.
Hello, Martin. This is our PYB Level 3 EagleCO's group video submission. And as discussed and agreed, we are going to cover three things. One, what the project has accomplished, namely what the team has accomplished so far. Second, the lessons learned so far. And third, ensure that we mention all the team members' contribution, because the contribution was varied. Some had very little, some had a lot. So with that, I'm going to let Cherie take us on a journey of how this whole thing began.
Well, it began on November 8th during a Power Plusers Pathfinder team hangout where Debi Davis was talking to us about the fact that she was in an area in Eagle, Colorado that had very poor internet, and she had to come into town in order to use Yeti's Grind, one of the businesses in our project, to access the internet. And she was telling us a story about how she was walking down the street using her cell phone to look up and search these businesses, and they weren't showing up. And she was interested in helping them to show up and was beginning to talk to them about it already. And when we heard this, we were very interested, and a number of us from that team are still here. Everybody on the panel was on that hangout, and it's just evolved from there.
And let me add one more thing, which I always like to add, because that's a particular passion point for me. When in that hangout, when we were talking about this, and as Debi was sharing that story, and then all of us chipped in and said, yes, we'd love to do that, I just remember the change in Debi's facial expression. Not that it wasn't beautiful before, but it's just that smile was, so for me, that smile has hooked me. So I've been in ever since. So Debi, let's hear from you what the project is.
So when I was in Eagle and I wanted to talk to the businesses about their lack of Google Maps listing, I was also very aware of the Vail 2015 event that was going to happen start on February 2nd, and I knew it was going to draw huge crowds. And so I used that as a conversation starter with the businesses because I knew that they were aware of it. So that was a very important part. When I brought this to the Power Plusers on November 8th and I mentioned it and they offered to help, you better believe I had a big smile on my face because I knew it was going to be a big job, and I was elated that we were not only going to have a good meaty project for our November 26th Community Day for Plus Your Business or Pathfinders, but that I was going to get some really good help. And here we are. I was dubbed Boots on the Ground for this project, and I actually had the face-to-face interaction with the 15 businesses that have agreed to be part of the case study. And so the ball is rolling. Very
organic creation. That organic element also applied to the growth of the team. That whole team creation was very organic. We started with a small core team on November 8th, people who said yes, and then we had, as Debi mentioned, the Community Management Day, and that was a real boost of energy. And after that, we decided to open it. There was an idea that one of the Power Plusers, Troy McLaughlin, suggested that let's not limit it to Power Plusers. Let's open the gate to Pathfinders. And so we wrote a post to Pathfinders saying, here's our scope. We actually refined the scope and tightened it after that Community Management Day. As Debi mentioned, we said we would go with 15 core businesses, that we will do the full part of putting them on the map, and then we would have a second tier that we would bring in as far as the socialize is concerned. And we also set the deadline to February 15 because we tied it into Vail 2015, and it ends on Feb 15, and then allowed 2 months for a case study, namely from Feb 15 to April 15. So that's when the case study is currently targeted to be published. So that opened the door, and more people joined in, and we were rolling. And over time, the team actually grew a little bit more. And I think, Tim, you have something to say about the organic team aspect as well.
Yes. I guess one of the things I like about this is that we have different strengths, and each of us, goes to a different area to work on something. And the one thing I always liked about this, the team aspect is solving problems, coming up with answers. And it's just been a great journey along the way. We've been able to draw in some of the things from level 3 into the project as well. So, it's interesting how it evolves from what it started as to what it is now. It's like a continuing journey.
So, continuing along that journey, before we actually get into the specifics of, with regard to putting businesses on the map, what was accomplished, another key accomplishment, if you will, is the various tools that we used. So I'm going to hand it back to Tim because he'll talk to us about Google Drive.
Well, what was great about Google Drive is, I guess I should say, when I got into this project, my experience with Drive was more or less using it as a dumping ground for things. But over the course of this project, I've realized, and everyone else has shown me, it's a great way to collaborate, to share material, and also for the creative process. And it can serve as an overlying structural tool, so you can stay organized, as opposed to, you got things over here and things over there. And it was just very useful. And I think without it, I don't know where we would be. I mean, I doubt we would have gotten as far as we had. So Drive was indispensable, really, for this project.
I just wanted to flash our Drive structure. And this structure actually evolved. This is, as you can see, there's a PR-related subfolder, Vail 2015, a very important aspect of the project, case study documents, team bios, Hangouts, Google Plus tips, and so on. And so this structure, and the key element is that this top-level folder was shared with the entire team. So all they had to do is drop something in, and the document was automatically available to everybody. So as Tim said, very, very useful. So that brings us to the second important element of our tools, and that is the private EagleCO community. So I'm going to take us on a tour of EagleCO's private community. The purpose of this community is threefold. One, it's a place for all team members to communicate, and there's different classes of communications. Second, it's a space where we can create draft posts and then post them publicly, namely all of our socialize effort, which we'll talk about shortly. And third, it's a storehouse for resources on anything about the project. For example, everything about Vail 2015 and EagleCO, and about Google Plus, that is. So those are the three primary purposes of the community. And while I bring up the community via screen share, I just want to add one more key element. Every team member is a moderator. By having every team member as a moderator, it allows an efficiency. And that efficiency is just that a key example is anybody can pin a post, and anybody can adjust categories and so on. So the idea really being that there's no choke point that somebody has to come to a moderator. This way, everybody's a moderator, and we can efficiently do things. So having said the three purposes, let me just quickly show you how the three purposes are actually being implemented. As you'll see in the categories, there's a whole bunch of resource categories about Vail, Google Plus tips, reviews, maps, Eagle. That's where raw resources are. And then we have several categories regarding communication, message board, discussion ideas, and so on. And then we have the space where we create draft posts and for socialize. And we have two classes in that, the technical post and EagleCO post. So let me just very quickly flash some things. A message board is just a general communication, so you'll see that there is some dialogue going on about Drive, some quick note, something about LinkedIn. That's where all kinds of communications of that nature can be happening. There's, of course, general discussion where specific points can be covered. So let's look at socialize technical. This is where draft posts, technical aspects of the project, things about circles, things about reviews, things about how to do maps, and so on. This is this particular, here's an example of a post that Tim is doing where he put the draft post on building circles for the Eagle businesses here, there was engagement, and then he posted. So that's an example of, and then of course when everything is posted, there's a category called socialize posted, and they can go there. I'm not going to jump into that. I just want to quickly flash a resource example of a resource. Right now we are focused on Vail 2015, so it's pertinent to show that. And there's your Vail 2015. There's a few links about Twitter, Facebook that are pertinent because there's a list being created regarding athletes and their social media efforts. And then there's a YouTube channel. In addition to the raw information, it also has other blog posts that have been found that could be posted. So, for example, there's one about men's races, which was recently posted on our Eagle page. The community, of course, evolved. The community was actually launched a week after the project started, which was November 8th started the project. November 15 is when we had this community going, and it has evolved since then. So as members came in, they had something to actually go to and see where we were at, because the members were added over several weeks range.
I would just like to interject here,
Yes,
and that
please.
community, the whole concept of it was new to me at the beginning of this project. A private community used to organize a project, and Cherie had some experience, and she was the one who set it up and gave us our original structure that helped us all to realize how powerful that can be. We refined it as we used it, and it was ultra collaborative because we were all moderators. So those were some nuances about communities, the fact that they were private and that we were all moderators, that really helped me to understand how powerful communities can be here on Google+.
So let's move on then. Debbie is going to talk about Hangouts.
So for Hangouts, obviously, we all live on them day and night, and they were particularly important for us in several ways. One is that everyone could come to a meeting. We had weekly meetings, and sometimes it didn't always. We had people in Singapore, Louisa Chan in Singapore, and Nina in Bulgaria, there we go, and people all over the U.S. Rey is down in Mexico. So we had all these different time zones, and it allowed people to come to them live if they could, but if they couldn't, they could watch the replays. So we know that's an obvious benefit of Hangouts. We were also able to take excerpts from those Hangouts where we discussed particularly compelling points that were relevant to the project that could be shared with the town of Eagle, for example. And we made some shortened 3-minute and 5-minute videos that we could share with the town of Eagle that helped to draw them into the case study to the best of our ability anyway. But it was a great way to create a communication piece by making these excerpts. I personally have gone back to look at the replays and refresh my memory about conversations and pick up details that I lost in real time. And so Hangouts, and the fact that everybody on the team was fully capable of getting in on the Hangout, understanding how to use screen sharing, knowing how to mute themselves and that sort of thing. So I think we all got better at using Hangouts in order to contribute to the efficiency of this whole plan.
Wonderful. Next important tool set, Debbie, are all your tools that you use, because as you said, you were boots on the ground and you'd be the driving force behind this, and so you had another set of tools that you use that will be worthwhile talking about.
The tool that I use to keep myself organized is not a Google tool, but it's one that really helped out with this project. So what I'm showing up here is a journal, and it's kept in a program called Paymo. And what it allowed me to do is, I'm down on page 39 at the moment, so let me bring it all the way up to page 1. Because I just want to demonstrate that this gave us a day-by-day journal. Well, it gave me a day-by-day journal that helps me to keep my project in order, but then I'm able to share a live link to this, and everybody on the team can access it and see what I'm doing. So it started, as you can see, on November 8th with all the details, and it comes all the way down to the current, day. We're January 30th. So that journal then, I was able to export that into a graph or a chart, and I had my journal entries categorized. So now we can go back in retrospect and look at how time was allocated to various aspects of this project. So going forward with our case study, we're able to actually have almost like chapter headings, what it took to verify and optimize case study participants, strategy development, socializing, research and learning, project management, etc., etc. So this tool was an organizational
Great.
tool for me.
And we have one more tool to talk about because Tim has been using some wonderful things to find all these Google Plus nuggets, if you will. So I'm going to hand it over to Tim.
So one of the things I learned during the course of this project is you could call Google My Business support, and I do it through AdWords. And of course, you get to somebody in Google who is a support person. The answer they give you may not be quite right, meaning that they may be just reading off something in a help document. Well, in the real world, we know that's not always the exact correct answer. So what I found was there's a local search pro community on Google. I also used our own plus our business community to find answers. And also there's some other forums. So getting that correct information beyond what support would tell you is very important to sort out these answers. And then moving beyond that a little bit, we started to work on other tools like circle count, how to make spheres. We're working on Nodex. So all those could fall underneath the tool category. And like Debbie says, you got to be efficient at this because you can't flounder around and spend all day trying to figure out something. You got to find the answer, make sure it's right, verify it, and then move on.
So we're going to talk about now localize, optimize, and socialize. So Debbie is going to talk about localize.
So, and this is where we want to give credit to Ray because he helped us learn about a really cool tool that I am going to use for the rest of my life, and that's custom maps using Google Maps. So I'll show you what we did with the custom map. This map that you're looking at right now is all the businesses of Eagle, Colorado, and they're all color-coded in different shapes depending on what they're doing. But if I take out, for example, all the businesses that have no listing whatsoever, then we end up with this. And then there are some businesses that are verified but not optimized. So those are the orange balloons, and I'm going to take those out of there. And then the purple diamonds are all the businesses in Eagle, Colorado that are unverified. And once we remove those, we're left with the 15 businesses that are part of this case study. So this is just really a drop in the bucket, but part of the project is to create a model that can be scaled to fill the needs of the entire town of Eagle. And so you can see what the potential is there just based on this map. And that map really drives home that plan. It drives home that idea, but it makes it so easy to keep on top of the status of each one of these businesses. So this Google Maps thing was a huge aha for me, and it adds to what we're going to be able to put in the case study because it's graphically depicted and a picture says 1,000 words.
Great. Okay. So I guess next is optimize, right? That was all you needed to say about localize, Debbie?
Well, to continue a little bit more on localize, I do want to bring up, and this might be considered a lesson learned, but localize is the term that Martin, you gave us in your case study. And localize is really a two-part thing, which is what we learned through this experience, because there's claiming and verifying. So localize has a two-step point. And then we also found out by crowdsourcing on the PYB show, Mike Blumenthal helped us know that there's some precursors, some steps that you take even before you start the localize. So that's another lesson that we learned around localize. Once we got, and the precursor steps were not something that we included in this case study, but it's certainly something that we learned should be included in the model. And then we go to optimize, which is essentially the second step of the original model, and the optimize is where we learned a lot about photos and how to handle reviews. It started some discussions among our team about what happens if the reviews are bad? What happens if someone wants to take a review off? So we were able to address that sort of thing. Another big issue was, how do you get more reviews? Because that's one of the things that the businesses would aspire to doing, so that they increase their digital footprint. And we talked about several different ways of increasing reviews. We talked to Mike Blumenthal, who has actually developed a software that helps to bring in reviews for local businesses. So we learned a lot about reviews that will definitely be represented in the case study, and it was where our team was instrumental in going out and finding answers to the questions that came up. And so we were able to build a pretty good library of information that would, address the frequently asked questions. And those are just some of the things on the optimized section, but a lot, we learned a lot as we went along. How do you optimize a Google Maps listing?
Great. So that covers the optimize as well, Debbie, right?
Yes.
In the project, as the localize and optimize stages were winding down, though there's no winding down per se because work is still going on, we started our socialize effort. And socialize effort effectively was in two stages. Stage one was we had the team members posting about 3 themes, posts that covered 3 themes: Eagle Town, Eagle Businesses, and Vail 2015, and using 2 hashtags, EagleCO and Vail 2015, so that everything would be centered around those hashtags. And that effort was rolling, and partway through, we knew that there's a broader socialized definition. And the broader socialized definition is that there is a EagleCO Vail 2015 brand page. So there is engagement happening on that, what I call a triangle point. First point is the brand page. Second is a public community about the project, namely in this case EagleCO. And third point on the triangle is a website. We consciously decided to not do the website and the community because the businesses weren't really participating, so it didn't make sense to have a community, and strictly focus on a brand page, which we call EagleCO Vail 2015. So that's where stage 2 of socialize kicked in. The public stream posts were already happening, and the brand page came in. The brand page launched on December 15th. So all posts that had been posted by individuals prior to that point were consolidated onto the page, which is one of the purposes of the page. So here you'll see that our initial posts were the tie-in with PYB community because of Martin's original inspiration, his study in Brazil. Then there's a post about Vail 2015, a post about a business, and a post about the town. This is an example of post authored by EagleCO. I believe Debbie posted this, tying in a business, Jill Squire's therapy business. And then here's a Vail 2015 post about the key numbers of. So from that point onwards, there were posts posted by EagleCO, and then the continued resharing of the individual posts. I should point out that every team member is a manager, so they could come in as a manager and post, and of course reshare, again bringing efficiency and allowing everybody to post about EagleCO and Vail 2015. These 2 hashtags, as I mentioned, Vail 2015 and EagleCO, are very important. You can see that Vail 2015 hashtag has EagleCO at the top, and it also is featuring PYB Show and PYB Academy. So the tie-in that we wanted to accomplish did get accomplished. If you look at the EagleCO hashtag, it's the reverse. Vail 2015 is at the top, and then PYB Show and PYB Academy. The point being that if somebody came to Vail 2015 hashtag, they would naturally be curious about EagleCO, and thus they would come to EagleCO. So in a fullness of the project, that tie-in would benefit EagleCO. It would help put it on the map. That takes care of our socialize effort, and then next we have Tim's going to talk about reviews and QR codes.
Well, on the subject of reviews and QR codes, Debbie covered this a little bit, and so what we started to realize, we said, okay, reviews are important. So then we said, okay, how would you articulate the importance of reviews to the merchant? So we did research on that. And, for example, it's a sign of social proof. If you don't have any reviews, let's say this listing has no reviews and the other one does have reviews, it's more likely the one with reviews is going to get more click-through or attention than the one that does not. Then we came to the idea of how would you manage these reviews. Okay, so you have some reviews, so then we have to figure out how do you manipulate the dashboard to respond to those reviews. And then we went into how would you capture more reviews, and that kind of snowballed into QR codes and a few other ideas. And the QR codes, we spent a fairly, I would say, a good chunk of time on that, and it's pretty fascinating, and I don't think we came to a definitive answer on using QR codes, but I think we're close. So, and there's some other things. There's also something from White Spark, which is, I think, a little placard you could put on a table with a QR code which somebody could scan. So that's still a little bit of a work in progress, I guess, but we discovered some things, and I think we're getting close to some type of system to maybe collect reviews, but we know how to manage them, we know why they're important, and that covers a lot of the subject of reviews.
Another organic growth that occurred in the project, and that has to do with PR, and Debbie's going to talk about PR.
The PR thing came along, I think, partially because once we set up the 15 businesses and we were not getting the involvement that we had ideally wanted, we weren't able to really involve them in conversations and pin them and get them to like it and do the socialized part that we hoped that they would take the ball and run with. So besides, we did our own posts, obviously, as Sanjiv just explained, but we needed to create more buzz about the project without the help of the businesses. So we turned to our Google Plus networks, and we were able to feature the show. Now it's been 4 weeks in a row on the PYB show, which has been a huge boost for the visibility of the project. Louisa Chan did a radio interview in Singapore and then wrote a post about it, and we were able to write about that and share that information. Mary Stovall has been featuring it in the PYB newsletter almost weekly, and I was interviewed on Tuesday 10, Sonny Cadwallader's show, and by Chef Dennis on his show. Mick Sharp has, I think, it's 3 weeks in a row now that has featured it on his Friday favorites. So the whole idea of PR, we weren't expecting it, and we didn't really plan on it strategically. But once we realized we had those opportunities, it gave us a way of getting word out about the show, about the project, and bringing in more interest from Google Plus people who have been here to support us and help us with the socialize effort. I mean, it really did build up our ability to socialize because more people were talking about it and responding to some of the PR efforts that were going on as a result.
Debbie, did you want to share some things about the Eagle Town meetings?
Yes, the Eagle Town meetings, basically it's Eagle, the Chamber of Commerce, and then one official for the town who caught wind because I made it pretty clear that what we were doing in the town of Eagle, but I did get their attention, and they do have an economic development plan that includes digital visibility. So they're vaguely interested in it. I believe it's overwhelming for them at this point, but with everything that we've put together, all the collateral that we've generated around this project, this will help them to see how Google can play a part in their economic development program. We haven't been able to make a lot of progress with them just because time doesn't allow it, and I'm 2 hours away from them, but I definitely see it as a potential opportunity, and what we're putting together for them that has PYB written all over it, they're going to be able to see that this group banded together, studied their town, and we have it all in writing and on video. And so I think that is going to be a nice little side piece for them that they don't even know is coming yet.
Then comes one of the very important deliverables of this project, which is the case study, which we'll be spending focused time on from Feb 15 onwards. And Debbie's going to give us a quick overview of that.
So the case study is obviously a collaboration, and the organizational tools that we're using, Google Drive, for example, the journal that I'm keeping on Paymo, and the community where we've been keeping all of our kind of our private resources, and that in and of itself is a journal of how this project has progressed. And all of that will come together as a case study. The case study, we're giving ourselves 2 months from the time Vail 2015, the event that this is all driven by. When that ends, then we will start organizing that. I've started looking at it already. We have an outline for it. We have a suggested table of contents. We have citations, including a bibliography as to who contributed what parts to that case study. And the case study is writing itself essentially because of the organizational tools and the collaboration on this overall project. The case study will be published on my website, and each one of the contributors will be named and their contributions will be spelled out in the case study as well.
So that takes care of one major segment of what we wanted to deliver to you, Martin, and that is the major accomplishments of the project. And the next is lessons learned. And so Debbie is going to share with us the lessons learned in the project.
We did learn some very important lessons, and part of that was just through the practical process of meeting with as the boots on the ground going in. How do you start a conversation? How do you get them interested? We learned some lessons about claiming versus verifying, which, as you know, we've added now to that localization process. And we've got some lessons learned when, as far as the reviews, like Tim already went through. But the lessons learned have been coming fast and furious, which is why we're not going to go over all of them in this video. But they will be in the case study. And it's been a growing experience, a learning experience. And what we hope to do is take those lessons and put them into the case study in a way that provides a model for other people who want to do a similar project in their own town, something that's replicable, and that they can use as maybe part of their service offering as a Google consultant or whatever you choose to call yourself, but Google should be all over it. So lessons learned, lots of them.
Just to augment what Debbie said and everyone else was talking about, you have the small town of Eagle and the merchants in it. You have Google and other digital resources they could use to their benefit. And there's a gap between the merchants, Google, and these resources. So you're going to have something to fill that gap. And if the merchants can realize the importance of this, some may be still stuck on, I'll have a phone book ad. Well, the phone is not going to give you reviews. It's not going to tell you how to find the business. And once the merchants will realize that, they could go it alone and try to use Google and these resources to help their business, or they can use somebody such as this group here or consultants to fill that gap to help the merchants leverage the resources to drive traffic and generate revenue for their business. And that is as distilled down as I can get. And also the only other thing I would add is, if you look at where governments or the media pays attention, is to larger entities. These are small businesses who are trying to survive. So there's also maybe a little bit of a David and Goliath thing going on there. I don't know, at least in my mind. So if we can bridge that gap, we're doing more than just generating revenue for ourselves. We're helping these businesses out as well as the small towns they reside in.
I would like to bring up a lesson learned, particularly because Ray is on this call. Ray's part of this team, and he's a little bit, what do we call it, audio challenged right now, which is why we can't bring him in very often. But one of the challenges is that I was dealing with a business where the owner didn't speak English as a first language, and he had some particularly detailed challenges. He was changing the name of his business right at the time that we were putting him on Google Maps. And so there was a lot of information to share with him. So we were able to work as a team and correspond with that business owner in his mother tongue of Spanish, and that was, Ray was able to come in and help to formulate that communication so that we could treat that client very special. And we're still waiting to get his response to that, but I feel very good about the way we were able to handle it because of our team.
Great. I'm sure he's delighted to receive that in Spanish. Thank you, Ray. We've talked about all the things that have been done. Let's take a look at the team. Of course, all the work that was done is done by this team and different people contributing to different degrees. With regards to this group submission, Martin, as we agreed in our dialogue, Debi, Ray, Cherie, and myself, this is our submission for the PYB Level 3 graduation. Tim has already done so and I believe graduated. This is just his add-on. And of course, this is coming from the entire team as well. Though the panel members in this video are the ones who were instrumental in completion of all project aspects. That said, I do want to call out several members. Nina Trankova for her prolific Socialize posting. Peter Lunn for Socialize and other aspects including video editing. Vin Brown for QR codes amongst other things. And Marilyn Ritter and Mary Stovan. And finally, Sheila Hensley, who's a late entry, who I call an outsider who's also an insider. She took on the GMB tutorial and Nodex. And again, I want to thank the entire team for making this a fun and wonderful learning experience. Thank you all.